Look at the building on the screen. What do you see? Oh, well, it's a building. Is there anything special about it? Oh, it's a red and also a white one. It's in China, by the way. Nothing special, right? But what if I tell you that this building is not made entirely by humans? What comes to your mind? This building, along with these houses and buildings, are 3D printed houses. Have you ever heard of that concept? Well, it's actually a very new, well, it's not actually new, but very curious and fascinating things I want to discuss with you today. What are 3D printed houses? Let's explore it by exploring the process of building these houses. How's it built? So if you look closely into the walls of the 3D printed houses, you can see like layers, right? The walls are not so smooth, but it feels like layers stacking up each other, in my opinion. And yes, they are layers stacking upon each other. And this machine is responsible for all of those designs. You can see these layers have been stacked up, and the machine is still working to build the walls higher and higher until it becomes a complete house skeleton. It's crazy, isn't it? And you can imagine this process as squeezing the whipped cream out of a piping bag. The whipped cream represents the mixture of concrete and other materials, which is the material used for building 3D printed house, and squeeze it out. And that's how a 3D printed house is built. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Well, you may be asking yourself, is it strong enough? Can it withstand floods and earthquakes? Can I live inside it? Well, this is how a 3D printed house is stronger than you expected, perhaps. There. Do you see these gaps between the inner walls and the outer walls? Well, it's actually to stack up more zigzag layers like in this picture, and then people will insert in some vertical rebars to strengthen the skeletons and also fill it in with insulation. What is insulation? Well, simply it's like the materials that keep the house from the heat of the summer and from the coldness of the winter. Yeah. What are some benefits of these houses? First thing, it's fast. The houses are built so fast comparing to the conventional building technique. Do you know that the first fully permitted house, 3D printed house, which was built by the company called Icon in Texas, the United States, has its skeletons or its external and internal walls completed in just 47 hours. When the furnitures are put in and other features completed, it has the total duration of 8 days only. That's so fast. Yeah. And the next thing, do you know or have you ever considered or noticed how many people are required to build a house, regular house, using the traditional technique? Well, about 20 people, right? 20 laborers. But with the 3D printing technique, only 3 people are required. One will sit at his or her desktop to monitor the machine. The other one will monitor and supervise the machine, and the other one will be the one to insert the vertical bars, rebars, or some electrical devices or plumbings while the machine is working. Yeah, it's fast and requires fewer people. This reduces the injuries and the fatalities while working out the buildings. And what about the cost? Well, so it is actually and surprisingly cheaper than you might think. It's not like billions of dollars. Well, it may be cheap. One of the reasons why is because the houses are only mostly one-story buildings or houses, and they are very fast, and the machine does almost all the work. Automation really takes advantage of the buildings. But this is a cutting-edge technology, so the equipment for the machines are pretty pricey. The expensive equipment does not overweigh the cost of this. Well, let's ponder a little bit. Even though the equipments are pretty expensive, but it has been built very fast. And so the people, well, after working on a project, a fast project of building a house, they can be more available for other projects, which earn them more money. And this house is cost effective. It's affordable, yeah. And it is flexible too. Have you ever seen the curved wall designs? It's very difficult to do if doing it in the traditional way. But with 3D printing house, you can see it's as easy as straight ones. Look at this. Look at how easy it can be with 3D printing technology. And this house too. You can see the zigzag kind of thing, right? These walls are very easy to do with 3D printed technique, and this can also serve as installations for the house. Yeah. And this house, another fact, is that it's used only biodegradable materials found around the environment. So biodegradable materials are materials that can decompose, and it's greener for the environment. And this can make the 3D printed technique very sustainable. It leaves very few and it limits the offcuts after building a 3D printed house, because the machines and the technology has accurately measured the materials for building a 3D printed house, which makes the accuracy really, really important for sustainability. Yeah. And remember this building? This building has some offcuts after finishing it, and it can be used as recycled materials for other houses. The company built this, called Winson, has used the recycled materials after building this to build 10 houses in a day. You have not heard wrong. 10 houses using the recycled material from this building. And 3D printed houses and buildings are very potential, can be used in a lot of situations, so its applicability is wide. It has the potential to solve some issues like housing issues and used for humanitarian purposes. In developing countries nowadays, a lot of people have not had any houses to live in, and they also have a shortage of materials which they cannot use for building a house. But with 3D printed house, they can be much more easier to implement this. And this is why NASA is actually considering the technique of 3D printed house to actually build more designs on Mars or any other planets they can find. Look at these lines. Yeah, it's 3D printed. Of course, it's not real, but it's very potential. So in this video, I have introduced you about the benefits of 3D printed house, and I will see you in the next video for the drawbacks.